Hello, 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 hello. Good morning, everyone. Hi, hello, welcome back to the Daily Creative Challenges. I felt like we needed like a good kind of just descending upon, or maybe I was ascending, one of the two. Maybe we're all ascending together because we will be doing the Illustrator Daily Creative Challenge together and ascending to another plane in our skills of Illustrator. Hello, hi, nice to meet you all. My name is Andrew Hawkrattle. You can follow right over there at hawk.co on all the social media, and it is pronounced like a hawk with a baby rattle. You can just call me Hawk if you want. So I'm glad that you are here. I'm glad that I am here. I'm glad that all of us are here together because we are doing some super fun stuff. And yes, I got a little bit of stubble. Maybe growing a beard. We'll see what happens. And yes, it is day 8. I actually love to not shave from the beginning to the end of these challenges because you can like track it as we go. But that's aside the point because we are learning something new in Adobe Illustrator today. And if you want to join us, you can go over here to behance.net/challenge/illustrator, the place to be. And down here, you can grab the source file, which is what we'll be working on today. We're making a gig poster, and there are some colors there that we'll be using, as well as a couple other resources. So grab that source file and we will be working on it today. The other thing you need to know, right here, bit.ly/AI Discord. That is our Discord. It is the place to be, where you post your work at the end of the challenge when you're finished with it. You can get some awesome feedback from myself, as well as some of our other mentors. Some great work coming in from the Monogram Challenge. There's our Playing Card Challenge as well. So lots of awesome work in here. Great opportunities to get connected, and great ways to get some feedback from your work and kind of level up your skills. Now today we're doing a super fun challenge. I have, again, way too many things to cover during this challenge. So we are going to jump right down and we are going to zip through as many different things as we can today. I want to show you a bunch of different funky psychedelic things today. So we're going to hop right in. Again, sorry, Cody. Cody is our moderator, but we are traveling through time on this stream, and we are kind of looking back into history of notable moments in design history. So today we are traveling back to the early 1900s as well as the 1960s. So we'll be in 2 separate time periods today, which is going to be a grand old time. So let's take that call from Wade, hop into our time machine bathtub, and see where we end up. Hello?
Hey, Andrew, I know you're streaming and everything, but I just wanted to check and make sure that everything is ready for my visit.
Yeah, it's next week, right?
No, that's tomorrow.
Oh, it's happening tomorrow.
Yeah.
I gotta go. Well, what's up, my dudes? What's going on? We are hanging out and we are going to be looking at the late 60s, early 70s, as well as the 1900s. Yes, this is a tie. We'll pretend like you can't see that. We do with what we can. So we're going to be looking at the psychedelic era of design, which is going to be a grand old time. And this actually was kind of a response to something that had happened earlier in time. So I do want you to research 2 things today. One is a designer named Alfred Roller, and 2 is another designer named Wes Wilson. So those names will be on our challenge so that you can look at them. But I want you to research those 2 people, Alfred Roller and Wes Wilson. Alfred Roller was in the early 1900s, and he was a type designer and just creative designer who worked in a style of ver sacrum. And their Sacrum is a magazine for designers by designers. So a lot of innovation happened during that magazine. If you want to look it up, lots of great stuff. The first use of white on white embossment. So he worked a lot on that and created some amazing type for it. And that type was then revitalized in the 1960s for the psychedelic design movement by Wes Wilson. So we're going to look at those. We're going to get psychedelic and super groovy today. Let's hop over into our artboard. So as you can see, our challenge today is to create a retro-themed gig poster using type, warp, and envelope distort. So we're doing all kinds of crazy things with type today. And yes, Wes. W-E-S Wilson, right up here. And this is your homework. Research Alfred Roller and Wes Wilson right there. So up here is the work of Alfred Roller, and this, again, you've probably seen this used in like a Jimi Hendrix poster or something in the 60s, 70s. It was a lot of this kind of psychedelic, very structured, but unique kind of look. This is the Vienna Secession is kind of the movement that we're looking at here. You can research that as well. But that kind of style is in the Vienna Secession. And yes, someone had to make one of those in their 2D design class a million years ago, yes. Down here is the work of our friend Wes Wilson. And we can see all of this amazing work. And again, that type is being revitalized, but then given this like groovy psychedelicness, which is what we will be doing today. We will be doing all kinds of wibbles and wobbles and scrubbles and scrobbles, all that fun. So you can see down here that we have some colors, and those are going to be important for us to use. You can use your own color palette or grab some inspiration from a 60s or 70s poster. Now, the first thing that I'm going to do is we are just going to not work with our type. We are going to go ahead and make a background. Now, what I want to do with this background is I'm actually going to use the radio repeat. So I'm just going to grab a quick triangle, which is a polygon, and we're going to click and drag, and I'm going to hit down, and that makes it less sides. So now we have a triangle that is only 3 sides. I'm going to rotate that using R and just align it to the center of my artboard. Now I'm going to stretch this down to the center. There we go, right there. Make it a little bit thinner. And then we are going to use, we could use a radio repeat, but I don't actually want to do that right now, just because I don't. So we're going to use rotate, and we're going to hit R for the rotate tool, and then come down to this point and hold Alt or Option. You can see there that it's adding those 3 little dots to our cursor. It's really hard to see, but you can see it kind of blinking there. It's adding those 3 little dots, and with Alt or Option held, we can click, and it's going to give us the option to rotate by a certain amount of degrees. So if we type in 30 here, you can see that it's moving by 30 degrees. We're going to hit copy, and it's going to make a copy of that at 30 degrees. Now we can go up to Object, Transform, and Transform again, or we can just hit Command D, and it will rotate that all the way around. So now we've got this awesome little starburst, which I'm going to group, and that looks pretty good. Let's go ahead and send it to the back by right-clicking and going to Arrange, Send to Back. And let's pick a couple colors here. So let's do the starburst in this yellow, and then maybe the background will be a red. So I'm just going to grab a kind of big rectangle and drag it over the whole thing. And then I'm using the eyedropper tool, which is I, to drop it to the back. Looking pretty good there. And yes, somebody has the idea. Now we're just going to warp it, man. So we're going to select both of these, our background, both the starburst and the red, and you need to have both of them selected, very important. And we're going to come over here to the, we're going to use some of these tools, but it's underneath the width tool. We use the line width in the last 2 challenges, so it's right underneath the line width tool, and we're going to go to the warp tool. And with the warp tool, we're simply going to click and then hit enter. And that's going to bring up the options that we can use. Now, I actually want this to be pretty big, so we're going to make the width 6, and then maybe we'll make the height 3, just to kind of mess it up a little bit. The angle, let's make it 23, so you can make the angle whatever you want. And we're going to set the intensity to 50 because we can kind of build up on it. Now, you can work on the detail and the simplify. I wouldn't change those settings. You can play around with them to see, but they're usually pretty good. So we're going to hit OK. So now you can see we have this kind of oval shape, and when we click and drag, you can see that it's starting to grab some of those anchor points and make them super groovy, man. So you can simply click and drag these anchor points and it will keep making them super wibbly, super wobbly, and make whatever you want. So this is a really great way to make complex patterns and make things that are very psychedelic in a very easy way. And yes, everyone's quoting Austin Powers. It definitely feels right for this. So next, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make a clipping mask of this. I made a box above all of that, and I'm just going to right click and hit make mask so that we have a nice background there. Now, the next thing that we're going to do is we need to make a title up here for our concert that we will be having. And to do that, I'm going to go to Adobe Fonts. So I'm going to go to fonts.adobe.com. And from there, I'm going to click on Browse Fonts. Now, check this out. More colors now, man. We're getting there. We're getting there. We're getting there. I'm going to actually look at these tags. And I want something that I know is pretty funky. And thankfully, there is a funky tab. So we're going to click on that funky tab. And we are going to find one that has just enough personality for us. And for me, I think that it's this. HWT Arabesque. I'm going to click on this. Yes, psychedelic and electric. That's what we want. And it's going to start syncing this font. I'm also going to sync maybe one more. Let's do this one as well. Ek something. And you can see that we're staying in that world of Alfred Roller, right? These are Alfred Roller inspired typefaces that we'll be using here. So we have Ekmanpsych and HWT Arabesque. So when I come back into Illustrator, it should be synced. Let's go ahead and click T for the type tool, and we'll just grab some type here. Bring up our type window. We're going to hit Control or Command T. And the one, oh, I forgot their names already. Ek, E-C-K. So I'm going to go E-C-K, and there it is. It is already synced into Adobe Live, which is great. My desk just made a weird sound, so I'm very concerned. We're going to click on this, and we're going to use Ekmanpsych large. So when working with type, the first thing that I always want to do is I want to go ahead and center this type. So I'm going to click right here, Align Center, and we'll make this white for now. And this easy trick to white is to grab the eyedropper tool, hitting I, and just click. Then it's going to make that white for us. So white's probably not the answer. But we are going to have our concert named Adobe Stock. Guys, it's the best. It's the best pun I think I've ever done in my life, right? Adobe Stock, like Woodstock, but with Adobe. We are going to then add a little bit of funk to this. I probably need it to be a different color so that it's a little more readable. And we're going to make it this dark brown. Actually, let's do this. We're going to make the background a little bit lighter so that we can then contrast it with some dark. There we go. That's looking much better. Yikes. Okay. That's looking much better. And now we can contrast it with some dark. And yes, stock.adobe.com. So we are going to go, and this is where we start to get funky. We're going to go to Effect, and we're going to go to, oh boy, we're going to go to Object. There it is. Man, guys, my brain exploded. Oh, where, you know the thing when Envelope Distort, make with warp. Whew. We got there. You know when your brain just stops working for a second? So we're going to go again. That was in Object, Envelope Distort, and make with warp, thankfully. So we're going to make a work, and I do want this to kind of have that kind of gig poster on the top. So here you can kind of play around with all of these. And yes, the headband's too tight on my brain. We can play around with a bunch of different options to kind of create the look that we want. Now, warp is super, super powerful to do a lot of great stuff and to get really funky with some of this. No one flag. We're actually going to do the arc lower. I think looks kind of cool. And so we're going to hit OK. And we'll just drag it up there. And now we have a nice little header coming in here. Now, maybe we want to note that this is a free event. And it's also on the top of the device. Thank you. We also want to note maybe that this is a free event. So I'm just going to grab a little circle here. And we're going to note that this is a free event. Maybe let's do it here. There we go. And so put a little sticker right here. We do want it to say free. So I'm going to use the type tool again. Just click T and type in the word free. And with this font selected, we are actually going to make it so that it fits inside of this circle. So what we need to do is we're going to make a copy of the circle, Control C, and we're going to paste it in place. Edit and paste in place. And now you see that we actually have 2 copies of this circle. So I'm going to scale it in just a little bit from the edge of that circle. And here's where it gets crazy. Okay, so we have this circle and we have the type. Now what we need to do is make sure that the circle is on the front. We're going to right click and go to Arrange and bring to front. My microphone's in front of it. And then we are going to hold Shift and select both the shape and the type. From there we can go to Object, Envelope Distort, and Make with Top Object. What that's going to do is it's basically saying, hey Adobe, take the top object and whatever we want to put in it, go ahead and make it so that the bottom object fits inside of the top object, right? So check this out. We're going to hit Make with Top Object, and it morphs the free into that space. Now I'm going to kind of right click and maybe rotate just a little bit so that it has that freeness. And something else that I like to do is if I double click in here, you can see that it is still editable type. You can still edit it. I like to add maybe an extra space or two to kind of get the edges in, or if it feels like it's too close and too funky to the edges, I'll often grab just a little black box and put one on either side. And what that allows me to do is to kind of make the spacing correct. So you can see there that spacing in the free is I'll just put a box there, and then I'll select both these boxes and make sure there's no fill. And so it pulls that in just a little bit to look a little bit better for me. So I'm actually going to shrink this down just a little bit. Yeah, looking groovy, bro. So we've got our groovy little sign here. Let's do some free there. You know what? Let's leave these because they're fun. 1, 2, and do another little 1, 2. There we go. So that's looking good. Looking super funky. Looking a little bit crazy. But let's go ahead and keep going here. So maybe we also need to have the time in here, and maybe it's going to be at 11:30 a.m. No, hold on, wait. There's a better joke there. Maybe we need to have a time on here, and maybe that time is 2:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Every Friday here on Adobe Live, you can watch Adobe Office Hours. We're starting a new season this Friday, doing back to school. So if you want to join us at 2:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on Friday, you can join us for that. I'm going to keep, what was the other font that we had? We're going to use that. The other font was HWT Arabesque. There we go, looking funky. So what I want to do here is I'm actually going to do a little bit of a different move to wiggle this around. We're going to make it that same brown, but I'm going to go to Object, I'm going to go to Envelope Distort, and Make with Mesh. And the warp were presets, right, that made us do certain things. The top object made it so that the object was being pushed, the type was being pushed into the object. Here we can make with Mesh, and it's actually going to make columns and rows for us. So we're going to go 3 by 3, not 30. I don't have time for that. And you'll see that it's making a grid. So you're like, why is it making a grid, Andrew? That's crazy. It is crazy. Because each of these anchor points is now independent, right? It's basically making a shape that we can move and kind of shift and change. So let's say that we want this type to go all the way up here. What we can do is we can select this object right here, select this anchor point just using the direct selection tool, hitting A. And we can click and drag it all the way up here, and it's going to start to follow where that path is going. We can play around with these anchor points to make it really fit in there. And maybe we want something that comes over this way. And we're making it super kind of cohesive to all of the different areas that we want it to go. Oops, I grabbed the wrong piece there. We can play around with these anchor points just a little bit. And the fun thing about this is we can grab the middle and start to drag these around. Now, again, we do want it to be readable. but we can drag these around and really play around with how wonky and funky that can get. That looks great. And the great thing is it is all still live type. So if I want to do PST in here, it's going to do that, but it's going to morph it into the place that we want. Now, you can see that I'm editing the type here, but I want to change this anchor point because it looks like it's getting too wonky and you can't read 230. Now, I can't figure out how to select the mesh again. And that's because up here on the envelope, we can either edit the contents or we can edit the actual envelope. So we're going to go over here and edit envelope. And now you can see that we have all of our points back. And where this is kind of getting wonky, I'm going to shift and change so that we can read that 3 a little bit more. Let's change those anchor points just a tiny bit. There we go. And that's looking a little bit better. So now we have 3 different kinds of type here. We have a warp, we have a made with top object, and then we also have an envelope distort. Right? So 3 completely different things and really crazy ways to do it. And then maybe we want to do just, hold on, wait, we need a breath. Here we go. Just like a regular text box. So maybe this is where the content could go for our concert to let people know that the concert is happening. We could just put it right here. And there we go. Now we've got a nice block text with some information. So what I want you to do for your challenge is to make a gig poster. You can use whatever name you want. I love the idea of using Adobe stock. I think it's the funniest joke I've ever made. But what I want you to do is to make sure that you do all three of the kinds of treatments that we did. I want you to practice using these different treatments. So again, those treatments are a warp, which with a warp, if we wanted to change this, we could simply click on another one and it would change it so that we have a different warp. So you can move through those. Warps are super versatile to change after the fact. So we are going to go to warp. What is the size of this? I believe that this poster is 18 by 24, but you can make it whatever size you want. So with the warp right here, we went to object, we went to envelope distort, and make with warp. So the next one is we can make a top object, which we have an object, right, which is a circle that we made a little bit smaller. And then another circle, we can go to object, envelope distort, make with top object. And remember, we need to have the type and the object selected. And then the last one was simply going to object, envelope distort, and make with mesh. And from there, we set our mesh. Now, I'm going to do one more thing. This is so fun. If you guys want to try it, grab the pen tool and just make a crazy shape, right? Make a crazy shape with a ton of points. Maybe we want to take all these points and round them out a little bit. And then do this. Type out your name. Type out your name and watch what happens here. So we have my name and we have this shape. Watch what we do. We select both of them. We're going to select, our object first, make sure that it's in front, arrange, bring to front. And now we're going to select both of these and go to object, go ahead and type or hit envelope distort, and then make with top object. And it's going to warp that entire word into that object. And you can get some really funky treatments out of here. I'm just using the brush tool now to do a little bit of extra here. You can get some really, really fun treatments out of doing the mesh with top object. So I'm going to add a little color here, and we're just going to do a fun 2-color kind of vibey vibe with my name. Oh, let's go ahead and edit this, and then we put the vibes in that. And now we've got some cool vibes and some crazy shapes, right? So you could build the entire poster just using basic shapes and then using that mesh with top object. But I do want to see you try to do all of the different terms that we've done today. And make sure you look up Alfred Roller and Wes Wilson. When you're done with the challenge, put it right here, bit.ly/AI Discord. You can put it in there and we'll be doing some feedback, y'all. Y'all need to calm down in Discord with these screenshots. Every week there's like a screenshot of me. Wow. So yes, work on your posters, post them in Discord, and we will be giving you some feedback, hanging out, having some fun. I almost made it through the stream. Ooh. Make sure that you stick around for the next stream. We're going to be hanging out with Nick Longo and a special guest doing some packaging design. And speaking of Nick Longo, I have to do the shameless plug. Make sure that you watch tomorrow, 2:30 Pacific Standard Time. Whenever you're watching this, it's every Friday, so you can tune in. 2:30 Pacific Standard Time right here for a new season of Adobe Office Hours. We will be hanging out and going through journalism and talking a lot about type layout like we did today. So if you want to learn more, go ahead and do that. And also, if you want to learn more about type layout, come back tomorrow for our last day, because we'll be talking about the legend himself, David Carson. I'll see you tomorrow.